going, folks? My name's Matthew, aka EZBOT, and we're back with another live stream. Today we're going to take a look at Syntact OS 1.30, which has been out for a couple of days, but I haven't had a chance to really dive into it yet. Although most of the features that are included in OS 1.3 are features you can find in other Elektron boxes, which is definitely a conversation all unto itself, I would say. Partly why I named the title of this, Should You Get a Syntact or Rytm Now, is just because they are very similar devices. New features added to the Rytm are now on our Syntact, and there's going to be some hard arguments for why you should pick up one or the other, considering that the Syntact has a much smoother workflow, I would say, than the Rytm does, because the digiboxes are just a lot easier to learn and use, especially with each other. And we're going to talk about that more because there's some features added to the Syntact that was added to DistroKid 2 that I found very, very useful, very promising for writing more intricate patterns and focusing on smaller segments of your pattern. Before we get into this whole discussion, let's just mention that the stream is sponsored by... Whoa! Almost went back to our little intro. DistroKid. DistroKid is an online music distribution service that can get your music out to all the streaming platforms at a very low price. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I got something cool to share about DistroKid. Yeah, back to the Syntact versus Rytm conversation before we dive into all the machines and do some exploration and some tips and tricks that I have for some of the new devices on the Syntact or Rytm, whichever one you're using, because it's going to be the exact same idea on both machines. Again, easier on the Syntact. Why would you pick up a Rytm? Let's answer that question first, because it's a really cool question to ask, because the Rytm is becoming this kind of unsung hero in the background. I know a lot of people love the Rytm. I have a Rytm Mark I. I think it's one of the greatest drum machines of all time. However, you don't see it very much on this channel, and that's partly because the digi workflow for me is really fast. I love pattern mutes. That's something that's not included on the Rytm. You have to kind of do this workaround. The Syntact has those pattern mutes. So now if I want those synthesized drum sounds that the Rytm has, which is one of the special features that the Rytm has, is the synthesis, the analog engines, I now have the best of both worlds in my Syntact. My Syntact has pattern mutes. It has the workflow of the DistroKid, which is very simple and very quick to use. And it has the sounds of the Rytm. What the Rytm has, the Syntact doesn't, is the performance mode in the pads, and also pattern jump, which is something that is really underused and underutilized on the Rytm. If you're like a Rytm expert, then you know this already. Pattern jump is sick. What pattern jump lets you do is... This is a Rytm thing. We don't have the Rytm here. We're looking at Syntact right now. But what pattern jump, and if we had it on these Elektron boxes, it would be awesome, because it lets you jump to another pattern within the step moment that you're in. So if I was on step 5 and I jumped to pattern 2, it would go to pattern 2 and it would pick up on step 6. So it would be just like, it would just morph right into the next pattern. That's a really powerful feature, and that's only available on the Rytm. And of course, the Rytm has the macros, the Rytm has the scenes. We don't have that here. There's there's some janky kind of tricks to emulate those concepts. Totally not worth it, in my opinion. They are if this is the only box you own, but if you happen to have a Rytm, there's really no point in trying to do those janky tricks on the Syntact. They're just a pain, and they're not as useful. They don't really work out. So there's lots of cool ideas that you can do, but they aren't really relevant. But of course, the one thing that the Rytm has that the Syntact doesn't have is sample playback or sampling. This is a really huge thing that the Syntact doesn't have, of course. And, I see in forums and stuff, people all the time, they're like, just add a sampling machine to the Syntact. It's never going to happen. I'm going to add a sampling machine to the Syntact. It's ridiculous. It's a cool idea. It's never going to happen. There's no way. So the Rytm, of course, we have our sampling, right? And sample playback. I have a Mark I. And it doesn't sample, but it does sample playback. And, you know, I'm happy with that. I'm fine with that. I love the idea of layering analog sounds on top of samples to make up all new sounds, or to come up with weird workflows, like having a chord that hits underneath a kick drum or something, or a bass note that's under the kick. Because there's all sorts of cool stuff that you can do with those ideas. Again, you have to dive into it, right? You have to dive into the machine. You have to do all these like Elektron tricks to like make stuff like that be relevant. We're now like, we have a very simple box. The Syntact is, in my opinion, the simplest machine Elektron has ever made. I'd even say the model cycles and the model samples are more complex than the Syntact. They're more complex because they are less intuitive. They have all the knobs on them, like they're fun to use, they're cool performatively, but this is just a really straightforward box. It does a lot, right? Again, this is the jack of all trades type box. Like if you want a groove box, it's just like a synthesizer groove box. Syntact is where it's at. This thing's really fun. It's great for making techno. We're not going to make techno today. We're gonna mess with these machines and kind of explore them a bit, but I really want to like play with some like faster tempos right now because that's what I'm into at the moment. And I actually recently took this box off my desk and I just put the Dig Attack 2 down, and I'm just diving into Dig Attack 2 more and exploring the Dig Attack 2 more, because there's still so much to explore. The Dig Attack 2 is a very complex device. It does so much, and there's lots of cool tricks and stuff to like eke the most out of it, make it similar to the Octatrack, and you know, I love that. So Dig Attack 2, still my favorite. You know, I love the Syntact. I do, again, still really do believe that it is one of the simplest things that Elektron made. It's the easiest to just pick up and just play with and tinker. Like you're not going to run into a spot where you're just like, it's not making sounds. That can happen on a Dig Attack 2. That could happen on a Rytm too, right? Getting like if you accidentally turned off the synth engine, had a sample engine running, and you didn't have a sample in it, it would make zero sound. There's not a spot here where this is going to make no sound, right? Which makes it very simple. You're always going to just get a result. So now let's talk about some of the features that make it closer to the Dig Attack 2. And I've like instantly I explored them, and I was really kind of part of the reason why I took the Syntact off the table. I always had a Dig Attack 2 in the Syntact here. Originally it was Dig Attack, Syntact, Digatone. Then it went to Dig Attack, Syntact. And then it just went to Dig Attack, and then today, just for today, because I'll put my Dig Attack 2 back down, we're just looking at Syntact. But part of the reason why I took the Syntact off is because the Dig Attack came with these new features. We're talking page loop is one of them. You go into your step editor, hold page down, and it lets you see your pages. You can either loop them down here by holding this, and you can jump to pages here. This is incredibly convenient for programming. Say you have So you have an 8-bar sequence, which is what I was working on before, an 8-bar sequence or a 4-bar sequence, and you don't want to wait to program a sound that happens on the 4th bar or the 8th bar if you're doing it at half speed. You can page loop, sit there, and let it do its thing. Now, this didn't have page loop at the time Dig Attack 2 came out, which was an issue for me. I was like, oh, well, I can page loop in my Dig Attack and programming on page 8 of a 128-step sequence, but the syntax is free running in the background. It's not syncing up with the Dig Attack. It was really frustrating. In fact, I was so annoyed by it that I just removed the Syntact. I was like, I just want to work on this last page. And now it does that. However, we didn't get 8 pages. We don't have a bunch of extra pages here. We just have the 4 pages. That was a disappointment for me, I'm not going to lie. I really wanted 8 pages. I know that there's only 4 lights here, but they could have done something. We could have made the light flash or something, made one dimmer than the other. I don't know. There was a way to do it. I feel like that was a mistake. And maybe they'll add that in the future. Doesn't look like it. But I'm very happy that we have page loop regardless. So it's a great feature to be added. And it makes it so that I can bring the Dig Attack 2 back into the mix and program in the same fashion that I was on the Dig Attack 2. So I love that. The Euclidean mode on here, I think, is cooler having it on the Syntact and having it on the Rytm or on the Dig Attack 2. I think that this is the most useful machine to have the Euclidean mode on it because it has a really powerful MIDI sequencer. So the Euclidean mode on the Rytm is very cool. It's very cool to have it on the Dig Attack as well But it's especially cool here because we get to play with synthesis and we get to have the MIDI machines. So instead of playing with samples in Euclidean, which is great and all, but it's not as fun as sequencing synthesizer sounds and then live recording us playing with these encoders and getting that into it. It's a very techno-esque workflow, and it's going to lend itself to making techno very well. So I think this is one of the best features they added to the Syntact is Euclidean mode here. While it's great on the Rytm, I think it's the best here. One of the best things they added here. Now, all the other machines they added, one thing that I found that it was kind of disappointing was that they only added analog machines. And I'm desperate for digital machines on the Syntact. I'm not enthused over some of the digital machines on the Syntact. I really want more digital machines here. Because there's no reason not to have more digital machines. We could have variations of FM machines on here. We could have a wavetable machine on here. Like we could put some wavetables on here, or it could generate wavetables digitally, and then we could scan through them. And that would open up some really powerful sound design. I know the CPU in here can handle it. However, the analog machines are absolutely sick, and by far my favorite is Sid Chip. And so what I'm going to do right now is we're going to dive into Sid Chip first. And it's not going to be about this deep explanation of Sid Chip, but more of an exploration of Sid Chip, and also some stuff that I do on the M8 tracker, which I'm going to emulate here on the Syntact with Sid Chip, since I'm doing a bunch. This is what we call Elektron Talk. These episodes we do weekly. It's a lot of discussion, a lot of dialogue, and it's not just music making. It is let's just talk about gear. And we do have something to talk about here. So right now, I'll just like shortcut you to the sound that I have made with Sid Chip. And you may notice that it actually kind of sounds like a typical arpeggiator. So what Sid Chip does, right, is it's got a couple of notes that it's going to take the oscillator and bounce them around to, right? If we're looking at Sid Chip, we see we have our root note, and then we have these offsets of notes, and it's arpeggiating. You know, we can change our arpeggiator speed here. It's not very intuitive, or it's a weird way that they've done it. It's a weird description, speed, and just, I don't know. It's cool. I like the way it looks, but it's strange. It's strange to me. Instead of it just saying like 16th or 30 seconds or 64, it's got this other way of describing it. But right now over here, I have it set basically to do 16th notes, which I think works just fine. However, when this is arpeggiating through those notes that it's changing, it's not resetting envelopes for the filter. If it was reset, if that'd be a cool feature, if there was something I could switch here and it was like or a secondary menu or something where I could have Sid Chip reset the filter envelope, that'd be sick. But what I did instead for this patch is I went into my LFO and I set the speed like this: 32, 64, trig, exponential envelope, and then I brought up the depth and I targeted my filter frequency. And what's happening is that every time I trigger this, here's without the LFO. It's just doing classic Sid Chip sounds running through a filter. And now this is giving me a true analog typical arpeggiator, which sounds sick. And when we have a good amount of delay on this, it sounds really great. So I love that, and this is a trick that I do on the M8 tracker. I like to do on the M8 tracker is you go in the tables on the M8 tracker and you have the table just reset on every step at the rate at which the sequencer is running, and you target the envelope retrigger. That's something you can do here. You can't target envelope triggers with the LFOs in the Elektron realm, although that would be freaking amazing. So let's hope for that update someday. But you can target the filter frequency and use an exponential envelope, and it kind of does the same trick. So now we have this vibe. And I think it does a really great job. I think that sounds gorgeous, right? And so what I've done is I'm kind of like the workflow here in this regard is hold the step, press yes, listen to it. So this one's doing the same thing, so this is where I left off. We copy the next one, we go to the next page, paste it. Copy. Copy. And now we have a sequence. And it's resetting the envelope at every 16th note, or at the speed at which the arpeggiated synth voice is playing, which is what Sid Chip does. Another thing that I'm doing is we're taking advantage of one of the new LFO features, which is slewed random. So what's cool about slewed random? Well, in a Eurorack, let's put this on so we can talk. Let's talk for a sec. In Eurorack, slewed random is the best. Slurred random is amazing because slurred random gives us these nice random slopes, right? It's this smooth, unpredictable wave. That's slewed random. Just random is this jolty, it's bouncing around. It's valuable, it's useful in that regard, but the slew gives us this nice, soft approach. It's cutting off those sharp edges of that random shape. Slewed random in Eurorack does a great job of running into something like a quantizer. So if we have slewed random running in a quantizer, it's going to keep those notes kind of nested next to each other, get a little nestled in with each other. And that's great for getting a sequence. It's also great for just modulating something that you don't want to have a jolty vibe. That random thing sounds really great without the slew on volumes, like hi-hats and stuff, to add like a real tick, 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 tick. That's really great. But with the slewed thing on the slewed random LFO going to like the filter cutoff or even to the pitch at a very small depth, just adds this, just adds some more flavor to it, kind of like almost a vintage mode. You'll notice vintage mode is something that's getting added to like every synthesizer. I found it in the Delia because I have the Melbourne Instruments Delia, which is my favorite synthesizer that I currently own. I'm super stoked on it. But it has a vintage mode, and you kind of use slewed random in that same regard. You can turn it up on the pitch a little bit and just kind of get this like mild random variation to the pitch. And it's just going to sound a little bit more analog. I mean, these are already analog oscillators, some of them in the Syntact. But that's the power of slewed random. So here, on here, I have the slewed random going to the waveform. This is something like in a typical monosynth that has a square wave with pulse width modulation or a pulse wave with pulse width modulation. It's very common to route the random LFO to the pulse width because a pulse width, like a pulse width oscillator, which is what I have this set on, is a pulse wave. If you just leave it at the pulse at this like kind of like offset to the far right or offset to the far left, you get a very low amount of harmonics. It's not harmonically rich towards the edges. It's harmonically rich in the center, right? But if we bounce it around, we get something that kind of does this for us. The sound is huge. So if I turn this, let's go into the waveform right now. Let me turn it off entirely so we can kind of show you this. Let me turn off that delay because that's confusing the sound. You hear that? It almost sounds like phasey. And if we can get the LFO to bounce around this pulse width, it's going to make some really cool, rich sounds. So let's go over here. you do it too much though, these values, this like 8 value, that actually corresponds to like the 8 value over here. Find a little sweet spot. I have the overdrive turned up a lot. Sounds great. It's awesome. It makes the oscillator sound really full. You know, this complaint that I had, and I've mentioned this so many times on these streams, a complaint that I had about the Syntact, and I've already, you know, we're talking, I love the Syntact, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to complain about stuff when I want features to be added that I know can be added and are being not added on purpose. So to, you know, rally us in one direction of another device so that we collect them all, which I understand. It's capitalism. Great capitalism. We love that. But chorus. Why not chorus? Why was that not in the update? So sad about this. Where's my chorus? If I could add chorus to this, it would be monstrous. A monstrous sound. It'd be so cool to have chorus here. But this actually sounds great. That's kind of cool. We don't have to use an exponential either. We could use... Sounds pretty good with the square, actually. And again, this is just acting as an envelope generator for us at a 16th note rate, which is the rate that I have this arpeggiating. So this is one of the tricks that you can do with Sid Chip on the Syntact and the Rytm. It's not a trick, it's just, we're just basically using the LFO as another envelope generator. And I love that. And I anticipated and I thought that we were gonna get envelope generators in the LFO section as part of the update. I thought maybe that would even come to the Digitact, but it did not. But you know what? I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. There's a lot of cool stuff that we got on the table right now, but there's a lot of cool stuff in music technology, and I'm happy that it's here. I love my stuff. I love my music gear deeply, and I love what the Syntact is. My one thing with the Syntact that's kind of like gotten me, this is a little, we can have a little discussion here. The one thing with the Syntact that's gotten me a little bit is that I want deeper control over the synth engines. I feel like the sound design on it is cool, but I feel a little limited. Not everybody has the time to spend like getting into sound design, so it's cool that it's just so easy to just like grab a sound and like tweak it. It's just gonna sound good because it's like the Syntact just sounds good. Like it just works, it does what it's supposed to do, and it sounds awesome. The engines are crafted really well to just get you in this nice little space where sounds are good. However, I want another page of attributes for me to adjust. I would like pages upon pages. I wouldn't mind it, honestly. I wouldn't mind if it was a little menu divey. I will dive into the menus to get deeper into the sound design. I don't know if that'll ever happen on the Syntact, because that's not the idea with the Syntact. The idea with the Syntact is to be immediate, and that's really useful, right? The immediacy of the Syntact is extremely useful. But this makes me, the Syntact, like, has made me miss my digatone. Because the digatone is deep, not was, is. The digatone is extremely deep device, and there's so much sound design potential in it because FM synthesis, in my opinion, is basically just a complex oscillator. Like, it's a polyphonic complex oscillator. That's kind of what FM synthesis is. It's just creating complex waveforms. And we don't have really the complex oscillator stuff on here. We do have the tone engine, which is, I believe, based off of FM synthesis. But I would like some more deeper synth engines. The dual VCO is by far the deepest and my favorite sound engine on here. And now that we have a side chip, that's my other favorite because I can get these cool arpeggios because we don't have an arpeggiator in Digitact or Syntact or Rytm. And side chip kind of does that for us. So now that we've talked about side chip, there's some interesting stuff like what I'm doing, and I always found this so strange, is that on these synth engines, they come with an envelope generator. They've built in with an envelope generator. They have a decay envelope, and I always open them up fully to infinity, and I just default to my amplitude envelope and do all my sound shaping here. Now, while having two envelopes isn't a disadvantage by any means, I just haven't found the advantage very often. I'd be happy with another parameter, like maybe the phase of this. I don't know, I guess that's already what this does, but it only does it with the pulse width engine. I don't know what parameter I'd put there, but I don't think it would be a decay envelope. Okay. Some other stuff I was noting, this strange about side chip, but also really cool because it does this great chiptune sounds, is that we have these oscillators that have noise built into segments of the oscillator. Like, that's so cool sounding. I really like it. And I've never seen it before, you know, on any other machine. Like, noise at the beginning of the waveform, then we have this chopped up square triangle thing, and then more noise at the end of the waveform. So strange. It sounds really cool. This was a really cool idea that the engineers had. Of course, it's sounding insane right now because I have this slewed random LFO going to my waveform. This could have been pulse width modulation. Okay. Cool. We love side chip. Glad it's here. Great job, Elektron, with side chip. And stoked to have it on my Syntact. Just giving me another reason to not use my Rytm, which just continue, like, you know, I don't know. It's so strange to me. Like, it's so cool, and I understand, like, what's going on. Like, they're kind of moving away from, it seems like they're moving away from the Mark II devices. That's, you know, we haven't had an update on the Octatrack in like 10,000 years. I feel like I'm the person who's trying to make updates for the Octatrack. I don't know. I want updates for my Octatrack more than I want updates for anything else. Literally, I wish. Anything. Give me anything. Give me page loop. Give me anything for my Octatrack. My God. I just want more Octatrack. But what are you going to do? Over here I have the bass drum. Our new acoustic bass drum. This is, I think, one of the coolest engines that Elektron has come up with for kicks and snares, the acoustic instruments. That actually sounds like an acoustic snare. It's so cool that it's an analog engine that sounds like an acoustic snare. This really does sound like an acoustic kick drum. I'm sincerely blown away. And yeah, Matt will judge though. Sorry, I got distracted by the chat here. I think these engines sound awesome to me. I got the hi-hat lab over here, which I think is probably, because of this, the hi-hat lab offers all these different oscillators. I feel like there's a whole realm of weird stuff to explore here with some like maybe ambient microtonal stuff. If we open this up all the way, and we're gonna get over to that last, but let's take a look at the BD. I mean, we already know BD Acoustic because we had it in the Rytm. We've already done this. This isn't new to us, but it is new to Syntact owners. So let's check it out regardless. I don't know what it is or why this engine sounds so acoustic. Compared to the other engines. Like, what are the parameters? In fact, I'm gonna just like, let's put another kick drum. Look at another, let's do BD hard. Like, what is it about this engine versus this engine? Like, what is happening under the hood? I want to know. This is where I wish that they would break out the parameters and let us see what's actually happening. I don't understand why this engine sounds this way and why this engine sounds this way. I don't know. I just have no idea. But it sounds so vastly different and so realistic to an actual acoustic kick drum that I'm so damn curious how they achieved this. Like, I want to know for the sake of my own sound design and my own synthesis understanding. I just don't get it. I think we can get a really nice bass sound out of this too. You definitely can. All right, let's just like throw down some kicks. I'm gonna use, well, we got to put the kick track down first, but I'm gonna send the side chip engine into the effects track, and we're gonna do a little bit of ducking because it's gonna sound sick that way. So let's put this down and go. We'll just copy this, go over to our effects track, make sure it's the exact same length it is, paste them down. Turn the depth up, change this envelope to about 22. It's a sweet spot that I like. Give this a little bit of attack. Throw snares down here. Oops. already adjusted my reverb and my delay to like be bigger, fatter sounding reverbs and delays, or not fatter, thinner actually, just longer. My high pass a little bit further. Now this snare drum, this is crazy sounding. We want to put some ghost notes in here for sure. We're running out of analog engines. The best part about the Syntact is the analog engines. There's no doubt in my mind. So that's one of the gripes I have, is that's why I wanted more digital engines and why I mentioned that earlier in this stream. And I'm just like, I really want more digital engines because we only have a couple analog tracks, and the best stuff in the Syntact is on the analog tracks right now. So it's like, what I think is lacking is digital stuff. Like we want more. I want more drums. Synthesis, like drum synthesis in the digital realm is crazy. Like there's way more drum synthesis in the digital realm than there is in the analog realm by like, just by a grip, just a huge amount more digital drum synthesis. And of course, all other types of synthesis. Digital is just an endless playground, but especially for drums, because like we don't care about how like weird or thin like a drum synth sounds, like, you know what I mean, or how digital a drum synth sounds. Like we want little plosives, we want those articulations from the drum synthesis and the weirdness, the glitchiness. Like I want more of that. So I would love to get more digital engines. That's just my opinion. But I'm gonna use one of the digital tracks as a bassline generator because I feel like a bass would be really sick here. And my go-to, one of my favorite ones, we could do like a respace with the Swarm engine if we wanted, which I don't think would be quite appropriate. But my go-to lately, I think, and then just go to a sine wave. And so I went to bits, and I put it on a sine just to get us a really fat subby sound. Bring the decay all the way up. Once again, that decay envelope, which I never use, is basically useless to me. And then I set the envelope to the note value, which means it uses the trigger length to determine, basically it uses the keyboard press to determine how long the sustain stage is. And I'm using this very basic, more of a sampler envelope generator, attack, hold, decay envelope, but which, we can change to an ADSR if we want, but I don't need an ADSR. This is going to be just fine for me. Got a little plosive there at the beginning, a little transient. When you add distortion to sine waves like this, it starts shaping the sine into a square because it's adding a lot of energy to the waveform, and that creates more of a square shape. So that's why it starts sounding more harmonically rich. I never understand those little pop, pop, pop. Like, why is it popping? I don't know. Let's hear this. I think we're gonna switch. I think we're gonna go to tone. One of the things the tone engine does really well is kind of sounds like a ladder filter sometimes. Because like when you think about synthesis, like the filter is adjusting the output of the waveform, right? Like the waveform's being shaped by the filter, removing different harmonics. Like if you look at your waveform post filter through an oscilloscope, like it just looks like a different waveform. And if you just feed a waveform that generates the same waveform that would be generated as the output of a filter, it has the same articulation, it has the same sound, it's the same timbre. That little rink, that little gritty, smooth cut that's in the beginning sounds like that transistor ladder filter sound. Right at the beginning. It's nice. Nice transistor sound. I'm like, I'm in chromatic. Every note to me sounds... Every single note sounds out of tune to me versus the arpeggiator. Why is that? Do I need to? Do I need to do the oscillator tuning? Why does that sound so terrible? Let's try something else. No idea. What is this tune set to? Just an octave up. The sine wave is doing nothing. We're at 0. Let's try something really quick. I'm gonna unplug this, and I'm gonna turn this. Oh my god. Maybe it's the arpeggio that I did. Let's change the scale. I really don't know. Maybe we'll have to rewrite this arpeggio. We'll start it over. We'll program something really simple here. Okay. Maybe it was just my arpeggio was weird. Let's use page loop. So here's the advantage of page loop right here, is that now I'm looping page 2, and we can adjust this till it sounds right. Let's go here. I guess it doesn't even matter to adjust that really that much. Cool. Well, I just like, I think the kick and the snare, like, it sounds so good, especially the snare. The snare sounds so good. Let's go with the hi-hat lab now. Clear it out. engine is so crazy. This is the we need more engines like this. Check out this filter patch that I made. It's like an auto glitch filter. I love this right here. Let's have this other LFO go to that waveform. far. Doing it the wrong one. Yeah. Get the new trig conditions? No. Actually, I like that snare up there. Pretty cool. So, I mean, I was grilling the Syntact pretty hard during the beginning of the stream, and that's, you know, I've got my feelings about it. I mean, I really love it, and it replaced my Digatone. Then the longer that I've had it, the more I want from it, the more I want from my synthesizer. Like, once the novelty of having the analog engines kind of wore off, I was like, I really want to go deep into sound design. I do think they added some cool engines for that. Let's go to a new pattern, like the hi-hat engine. Like, let's see, what can we do with this engine? Hi-hat lab. Let's turn the decay all the way up. Let's bring like the note value down a couple octaves so it's not. Oh. There we go. Give me 16 steps of that. Wow. There's no just note value. You have to assign an oscillator to each, or an LFO to each oscillator. I didn't know that. That doesn't do me any good. Okay, let's see. Ooh. That doesn't work. We have a clap. Oh man, we only have it on the one engine. God damn it. Okay, what do we do with this? What do we do with this to make it not sound like a hi-hat? Let's see. Clear this. Go back to this. Bring all these back. If we bring it up to 440, we'll get an A. What is that, Game of Thrones? Got chords. We made a chord with the hi-hat lab. Kind of like a house stab. There's not too much you can do with it. I don't know why there's so much noise in these oscillators. What is the oscillator shape in the hi-hat lab? There's not a secondary window. Okay, we're gonna delete the whole sequence and go with that. So we'll go. Let's make this longer. 64 works. think we need like something a little more minimal sounding with the kick drum. We could go with something really ravey, which I think that really wants to do. I wonder how in tune that is with the other sounds that we got going on. Where is it so noisy? It's like there's noise hidden underneath it or something. One thing that I really do like, one of the cool features that's pretty sick with the OS 3.0 is that if we found a sound that we liked, like the arpeggiator sound that we had earlier, we can just hold this button down and hit the sound button, and it just lets you save it immediately, which is really, really useful. And that's something that I was doing earlier when I saved my arpeggio. You know, trying to make like a song or sound that is strictly made with all of the new engines on the Syntact doesn't seem like it's the most promising effort. I believe we still need to use all the other engines because every engine is, you know, they're pretty limited in their sounds. That's kind of what I was talking about earlier with the Syntact and the depth at which the machines go. They don't go super duper deep. They don't go super duper deep in that. I would really love it for them to go deep, but I'm glad that they keep adding more machines because that kind of takes the place of them going really deep. Yeah, we had some nice sounds earlier in the stream, and then we started getting into like some real interesting exploration, and at this point I'm like, I don't really care about some of the sounds that we're coming up with. I do want to say what's up to the chat, all the folks that are hanging out here with me today as we take a look at OS 1.30. There is a lot going on here. Matt is now a noise performer. Yeah. What's up, Blake? What's up, everybody? Congratulations. Thanks, Nick. If that is Nick, maybe it's Chris. I don't know. Dig Attack 2 does not have direct jump, which is unfortunate. Only the Rytm and the Analog 4 have direct jump. That's the two superpowers that those machines have that no other machine has. It can make some really interesting sounds. Anthony, I agree. But I really I want to understand what's happening underneath this engine. I want to know what's happening underneath the hi-hat lab. It does a really great job of making hi-hats. Like, they sound great. Like, whatever this engine is, however it functions, with these multiple oscillators, whatever shape they're doing, which I don't understand, it works really well for making hi-hats. It's probably the best hi-hat engine on here now. I do like the right engine though. Sounds like a broken china. Flimsy, busted hi-hat. I don't know if that sounds like a ride, but it's a cool engine nonetheless. Sounds like a lot of the engines are really doing the same thing as Hi-Hat Lab. It's just a Hi-Hat Lab that's broken out to let you see what's happening underneath the engine. Oh, we don't have that camera turned on, apparently. I guess one test would be, because this really does sound like an, like, I'm really, again, I am very impressed by the sound of, let's just put this in like this, of these engines. How does it sound with like a guitar mic? Oh, that's so quiet. I think it sounds pretty good. I think it does a pretty good job of sounding like an acoustic drum kit. I am impressed. I hadn't done that test yet to put guitar next to it to see how it would sound like in a band context. And it does the trick. It does the acoustic guitar sound. Or acoustic drum sound. What's up, Art? How's it going? It's pretty cool to see people doing guitar things on the stream. Oh, what's up, Richard? Of course Richard pops in just as I'm playing guitar. Because it's PCM? It's not PCM. Is it PCM? Am I wrong? The guitar is definitely not PCM. But this does like... Blake, what do you know? I don't think so. You're fired. Am I clipping? Ricky said it on the stream. What, does Ricky work for Elektron or something? Don't ever forget, Ricky stole my Elektron job. Not really. They never offered me the job, but I would have loved that job. Modbang. Get a Modbang. Look. They're made to order. I believe you, Blake. I'm just playing. Just playing. I believe you. The transients are PCM. Well, that explains it. So there's little PCMs in there. Little babies. That's cool. Sounds great. I dig it. You know what I haven't seen? Let me see. Let me look at the patch notes really quick. Back to the patch notes. What do we do? Okay, somebody help me out here because I actually don't know the answer to this. Because I haven't done it yet on the Syntact, but where do I find Euclidean mode? You know? Trigger. Trigger page 2. Oh, okay, got it. Thank you. All right, let's go here. Let's get some Euclidean steps going. Track's muted. I guess that's not the track we're using anyway. So it doesn't matter. Here's a really dope engine. The clap engine. had that camera on my face for so long. God damn it. This is what the Euclidean thing is so great at, this improv sound, and like the toy engine lets you go out of tune really easily, which is nice. Cool sounds coming from so far. That's pretty sick. Pretty cool. I'm digging the new engines. I'm liking some new features. I mean, particularly my favorite stuff so far is definitely like page loop. I mean, that's just such a sick feature. All right, really quickly, we got to jump over and pay our respects to our lovely stream sponsor, DistroKid, because they're great. And this is just a really simple and interesting feature that they offer on DistroKid. This is my DistroKid account. Is this playlister? And so what this is, DistroKid is an online music distribution platform that'll get your music out to every streaming platform. It's very cheap. It's like 20 bucks a month. I have a link in the description if you want to use that. Gets you a little bit of a discount. It gives me a couple pennies. But regardless, DistroKid is the platform that I use to share music and get music onto like Spotify, which is what most people are using, despite it being the worst platform. Regardless, we still want our music to be heard, and that's the whole point. DistroKid makes that really easy. Playlister is actually what will get you actual listens, that will get you like moving through the algorithm, get people to listen. So Playlister, what this does is it lets you submit your music. You can use a genre, as you can see here. It lets you submit your music to a playlist. So there's people out there that are running these really large playlists, and they've made their contact information public so that DistroKid and other playlisting platforms can get you on their playlist because they want to have new music for their playlist so their playlists don't get boring. And that's the whole point of this. So this will let you get your music from your DistroKid account directly onto playlists for Spotify. I believe it's for Spotify, but it'll get you playlists in general. So hopefully that'll get you on more to Spotify. And you get a custom built search engine, finding email addresses and Instagram usernames of people who run playlists. And that's essentially what this is doing, is giving you a bunch of contact information in genres that you're interested in, and your music will already be on DistroKid, so they can just take your music directly from there and add you to playlist. Very easy for them to do and easy for you. So if you've ever wanted to get your music on a playlist, this is how to do that easily. And this is one of the premium features on DistroKid. So it costs a little bit extra for the premium features, but this is a really useful feature to have to get yourself on Playlister. So if you have a lot of music, but people aren't listening to it, playlists are a really great way to up your play count for your music. And maybe, a DJ will pick it up and start playing it because they've heard it on one of these popular playlists. So check it out. This is DistroKid. It's a great streaming platform, a great platform for, not streaming platform, but a great distribution platform. I think it's about $20 a year, and you just get to keep all the money. So it's pretty sick. It's pretty simple. Highly recommend it. And it's the only one that I've really ever used. What do you think of that ad? Not bad, right? So originally we were talking about why would you pick up a Syntact versus why would you pick up a Rytm? Here's what I have to say about that. For one, the Rytm is going back to that topic. The Rytm is a much more powerful device than the Syntact. I have a hard time having both on the table because they both do a lot of the same things now, right? We have these same engines. I love samples. I love the idea of samples. I love being able to layer samples with synthesizers. So my pick, if I had to pick between the two, obviously the price is almost nearly the same. It's $600 more for a Rytm Mark II nowadays. Rytm Mark I you can get for under $800. Syntacts are about $1,200 brand new. And Rytm brand new, $1,800. So, right? So they're pretty close in price point, but the Rytm gives you a lot more in terms of sound sculpting because it has performance macros. Doesn't have the effects block like the Syntact has, which is a really cool and powerful feature for sidechaining, sidechain ducking, and also doing some interesting sound design on the Syntact itself, like using the secondary filter and modulating that on a couple of synth engines, or a singular synth engine, as I often like to do, is use it as a second piece of my sound design, use the effects block, and I just have it like collaborate with one other engine and everything else ignores the effects block. The Syntact offers that, and it's easier to use, it's easier to wrap your head around, it's smaller, it fits on the table, it's cheaper, and it's got pattern mutes and an easier to understand song mode with a looping function in the song mode, which the Rytm doesn't have. The Rytm does have an elaborate song mode, though. It just doesn't have the looping function that you can just jump in and out of, like you can on the Syntact Digatone and Digitakt 2. So if I had to pick, I would say Rytm is still a more competitive device, and I do feel like them adding these offerings to the Syntact kind of implies that they're done with the Rytm, even though they did that update recently, but that they don't plan on going to maybe a Rytm Mark III. Maybe that's what Toneverk initially was. I don't know. But if I had to pick, I would, and if I only had one box on the table, I would definitely pick the Rytm Mark I or Mark II over the Syntact, and that's just because I really like having the samples with the synthesis, and without the samples, I'm limited to these synthy sounds. And as I said, they're a little bit harder to find. Like there's lots of sweet spots, but it's hard to get into that experimental zone on them as much as you can with the layering of the samples and the synthesis on the Rytm. Plus, I love the performance pads on the Rytm, and I love drum pads. So I like, playing the drum pads, finger drumming is really fun. But yeah, that's kind of like, that's my take on it. And there are some like moments in here where there was some like bad sounds, and there were some moments in here where we had some really dope sounds. And I think like one of my favorite things, and my favorite feature features added to the Syntact right now is definitely page looping and side chip, and page looping, side chip, and the Euclidean mode. Those are really great features to have because the page looping and the Euclidean mode puts it up to speed with the Digitakt 2. And I think that's really important for us Digitakt 2 users who are making most of our music using the Digitakt 2, like me. I use the Octatrack a lot, as you can see, but I use it as a performance mixer. And this current performance template that I have in the Octatrack is the Hyper Effects template, which is this right here. It's blocking my face. Hello. Here I am. The Hyper Effects template, which is available on coffee.com and patreon.com/EZBOT. And coffee.com/EZBOT. If you want to get your hands on this template, it's very unique. It's all about punch-in effects, more like the Pocket Operators kind of effects where you just grab them and just full wet jump over to them. It's really cool. It's really fun. 404 style effects, glitch, lo-fi, great for drum and bass, and experimental tunes. So if you're interested in that, you should check it out. I worked really hard on it for a long time, several months to come up with the concept, and I believe it got executed pretty well. So lots of new filters, lots of glitch effects, and it has a live looper. It's all ready to go. And if you want to get a little magnet and write stuff like these magnets, that's modbang.com, and then you can just write this down like this to help you remember what's happening on that template. But yeah, that's been kind of like, I feel like I put these engines through their paces. There's not too much to explore with them. It's just nice to have new sounds. It's not like it's a whole new world having these engines on the Syntact, but it is dope getting updates on our Syntact. It's a pretty new machine, so I expect more and more updates to come to the Syntact. So to keep it competitive with the Digitakt 2 and hopefully a Digatone 2 any time. Give me that now, please. I want Digatone 2 pretty badly. So hopefully that comes up sooner than later, and these devices this will work really well with that device and Digitakt 2, and they'll all be this very happy trifecta, and you can run them all into your Octatrack or into another mixer or effects box, and that'll be a really great time. You kind of expected more for Digitakt 2 than Overbridge with the update. Well, the Digitakt 2, I mean, I wanted to see more, like I was hoping for more, but I'm very, like, I think the Digitakt 2 has the most features of any of the Digi boxes, that's for sure. It's extremely powerful. I'm very pleased with the Digitakt 2 personally. I think it is the best machine Elektron has ever made besides the Octatrack. It is all you need to make music. You can finish albums on it easily. It's got great synthesizers. The wavetables recently, somebody pointed out that putting the wavetables on the Digitakt 2 into the slice engine, and then of course we loop those slices, but we can actually move through the wavetables really well, and it sounds fantastic. We put that through its paces last week, and that was really sick. So I mean, the Digitakt 2 is, in my opinion, the best machine that you can get for your money. I highly recommend it. There has been a couple of snafus with some of the hardware and some firmware stuff. I know I've been reading on the forum that some people have been having some issues with some stuff, but I'm 100% they're going to resolve that and it's going to get fixed. So I'm not having those issues on my Digitakt, fortunately. It is definitely my all-time favorite, and I do plan on having a couple of different performers coming on to the EZBOT streams in the next couple of weeks. I have a couple performers lined up to come on and talk about their workflow with not just Digitakt 2, but with all their boxes. But the next one will be on Digitakt 2 specifically, and tips and tricks with Digitakt 2. Not my tips and tricks, someone else's tips and tricks that they're going to share with me, which I really love to do, and I love being able to host people on the stream. You got some bugs today on 1.03. Yeah, I've been hearing that from quite a few people. I have some folks on my Patreon that have reached out to me asking if I've been having those bugs, and I have not been experiencing them at all. So that's sucks for you, Nyanko. I'm sorry. But I haven't come into those bugs. I don't have any bugs with my Digitakt. It's been pretty flawless, and I'm in love with it. I'm absolutely infatuated with it. I am going to, and like, I know I've been like really picky about the Syntact right now. This is the place where I'm at in my music production. I'm having this thing happen to me right now where I'm all about cutting down the fat in my workflow and just focusing on like one box at a time and very specific devices at the time. Like I got my polysynth, which I am absolutely in love with. Listen how good that sounds. It's so huge, stereo, ladder filter. Absolutely love this thing. I got my head rush thing for my guitar with my vocals. It sounds awesome. You heard some guitar in there. That's just guitar running right into it. All of that streaming into these boxes on the table. It's a really fun workflow. I got my M8 over here. We got the Deluge, which we're going to take a look at, I think, next week. Start streaming the Deluge and diving into it and just discussing it. Like, what is it good for? Who's it good for? And how does it sound? Has the sound improved since its initial release? The answer is yes. It's dramatically improved. I used to complain about the Deluge sound quite a bit. Now it's absolutely been updated. I think just changing the reverb on it was a really big deal, and adding these new filter options. They're much better sounding filters. Community firmware made a big improvement on there. And, I don't mean to be... I feel like I was being a little negative or complaining. Oh, it's kind of gross, right? About the Syntact, and it's really like I don't have anything to complain about. I think it's great. I think that folks should pick them up if you like analog synthesis and digital synthesis and you want a drum machine. That's what this excels at. It's mostly drums. It has some synthesizer engines in it, but it's mostly a drum machine. It's gonna do drum stuff. So it's kind of like, just a sliced off drum version of the Rytm. It's like half of the Rytm, essentially, or 3/4 of the Rytm, I guess. And but don't take my word for it. Buy one, try it. If you don't like it, trade it or sell it. It's easy. That's what's so great about hardware electronic music, is like, it is expensive to buy this gear, but it's not hard to sell it. Like everybody wants it. You like shave off $100 off the price and you're gonna beat out retail and someone's gonna pick it up. Especially with Elektron, the resale value is so high that there's no reason not to try their boxes out. Everybody wants them. The only one you have to worry about is an Analog 4, because nobody wants their Analog 4s, Mark 1s or Mark 2s, which is a bummer, because Analog 4s, it's definitely awesome, but it is the one that is getting the least attention from Elektron, and it's the one that needs an update the most, in my opinion, besides the aux track, of course. And maybe the model samples, model cycles, they seem to have completely fallen off the radar. Nobody mentions them. I don't see them on anybody's tables. I don't know what happened to those boxes. I thought I have a model cycles and a model samples, and you know, I'm not pulling them out because I have more of their flagship devices, but the model cycles is awesome. Like, that is a dope, really dope machine for 300 bucks. Like, it's honestly a steal. And I still highly recommend it. So if you ever see those for cheap, pick one up. It's got the full Elektron sequencer on it and a great sound engine, 6 voices. Sounds awesome. FM synthesis. It's dope. Great reverb and delay. Really like that box. I'm quite surprised it hasn't been getting any updates or attention. But you know what? I think Elektron maybe spread themselves a little thin in terms of like how many boxes that they've made now, and they have to update. They have to let go of some of the boxes. They have so many expensive flagship boxes that have a lot of specific features that I think it's going to be hard for them to keep up with this. They have to let go of other boxes and focus on these new ones. And I think that the Mark II devices, minus the Octatrack, because the Octatrack is such a moneymaker, but I think the Mark II devices are going to kind of fall off, and that they're going to focus on these squares, on these digi boxes, and maybe forget about these larger boxes. I don't know. I don't work at Elektron. Ricky does. Ask Ricky if that's what they're going to do. But that's my guess, because I think these make more money. And so they're going to focus on that. Easier to understand, easier to obtain. They're a little bit cheaper. And they sound great. So still a win, in my opinion. But I would like to see updates to the Mark IIs. I want to see an update to the Analog 4. Where's Euclidean sequencing on Analog 4? Where's a new oscillator engine on the Analog 4? I would love that. I think that would be great. Hi all, thanks for sharing. Oh yeah, you're welcome, Lewis. Sounds good, but if you don't like to work around mixing in the model samples, well, I honestly, the model samples is probably the least interesting music box Elektron has ever made, in my opinion. Just because it's just a sample player with the Elektron sequencer. But it's cool, but there's not like anything. It's a pain, like you gotta load samples onto it. For $300, there's some other stuff where you can actually sample. So not to knock the model samples, because it does sound great, but I do think that it's, you know, the least exciting of the boxes. The cycles is very sick. And this has some of the cycles engines on it, because the cycles is the FM synth engine from the Digatone chopped down to a simple box. FM synthesis doesn't use too much CPU. It's pretty simple stuff. Analog 4 Mark I never sounded good in my hands. It took me... Yeah, well, I understand that. The Analog 4 is an interesting sounding machine. I think it's hard to get it to sound the way you want it. The way you imagine a sound, it's hard to wrangle. It's a confusing box. It's complex. The oscillators are complex. This is not complex. Like I said at the beginning of this stream, this is the easiest electronic box to learn. I was trying to do weird stuff with it, and it kept me in the rails. Like, it's really simple. It sounds great. It's got analog synthesis, digital synthesis. Like, it's easy. Super easy. Easier than a Digitact by a long shot, in my opinion. But, you know, it sounds like the Rytm. So if you like the sound of the Rytm, you're going to like the Syntact. I don't know, that's my opinion on this. I am going to unplug it and put my Digitact 2 back here. I liked checking out the engines. It wasn't different from what I had already experienced because I have the Rytm. And, you know, I don't work for Elektron, so I just share my opinion on these boxes and what I do with my music production. And right now, I'm really stoked on some other stuff and really stoked on Digitact 2, and I'm going to stay stoked on Digitact 2 forever. I think the M8 tracker and the Digitact 2 are the best music devices that you can buy right now. That's my opinion. And I think that this is really awesome. So I'm really excited about the Deluge again. Harry Potter. I feel like it somehow got like Harry Potter sounds, and then we had another one, Game of Thrones little riff that just accidentally happened. But yeah, those are my favorite boxes right now. I think that they're the most bang for the buck. Oh, it's something cool. I have an ER301 coming back to me again after many years. I am excited to have the ER301 back in the setup. I do kind of remember how to use it. It's such a difficult device to understand, but it's a really cool device, and it's a playground, like it's like an Octatrack type playground where you can just kind of do whatever you want. So I'm excited about that. If I don't vibe with it, I'm gonna, you know, sling it off to a homie of mine who's ready to buy it already. But I am stoked to have that. So we'll have the ER301 on stream, and we'll talk about the ER301 at some point. But we gotta jump into the Deluge first, because I think the Deluge is such a beautiful device, and I have a lot of opinions about what it's good for, who it's good for, and what to do with it. But that's going to be it for me. Some folks mentioned they're like Easy Dad or whatever in here. Yes, my son was born a few days ago, so very excited. His name's Charlie, and I'm going to end the stream and go spend some time with him. So thank you everybody for hanging out. If you'd like to get your hands on the performance templates that I have in the Octatrack, that's patreon.com/EZBOT. If you want to support this channel, you can just leave a nice comment and a like, and that would be really great for me. Again, you can also visit patreon.com/EZBOT and support this channel financially if you'd like. If you have an extra couple bucks, $4 a month to get your hands on everything that I've ever done for Elektron products and some M8 tracker stuff, and some sample packs that can go in any device that I painstakingly created. You can do that on Patreon, but if you want to also get the template, like the HyperFX 1.0 template, which I think is incredibly fun and I'm addicted to playing with it, that you can also get that on coffee.com/EZBOT. I do want to mention before I go and go visit Charlie, that we do have some live shows coming up. Blake is in the chat. Blake's is our homie in Portland who runs Modbang Portland. And we got a couple of shows coming up. We have Sad Boys, Kid Camaro, Mikey 303, and Kapala playing the Modbang event in Portland with Casual Decay doing ambient in between the sets, and Brother vs. Robot doing the visuals. Go on down to Portland. Proceeds are going to be going to the Portland Synth Library after we pay the artists, of course. And this is live hardware electronic music. That means no computers allowed other than the little computers that are built inside of our synthesizers. Here in Seattle, we have Modbang at the 4Bs, which is a free show, always free at the 4Bs. Visuals by Magic Eye and B. Alcaroth, which is awesome. Plain Art Drift is closing. Hain, Nilk, and Changing Bodies playing. These are 3 artists that have never played Modbang. I don't know if they've played... I know Changing Bodies has played live, but I'm not sure about Nilk, if this might be Nilk's first time playing live, which is really cool, and I'm very happy to be a part of stuff like that, getting people on their first shows. Hain, I believe, has been playing for a while, but Plain Art's been playing forever. And these are really great artists from the music that I've heard, and I've seen them live a few times, a couple of them. So come on down to Modbang at the 4Bs on October 29th. That's 7 p.m. The music should be on at about 7:30, 7:45. And then the one in Portland starts, it's a Friday at 8 p.m. at the 6th, which is a really fun bar. And you go downstairs and it's this beautiful experience. So it's really cool. Come on down and support live hardware electronic music in both Portland and Seattle. And very happy to be a part of that. You can find links to directions and stuff like that at modbang.com/events. So again, I'm Matthew, aka EZBOT. This has been Elektron Talk, episode 5 trillion. I'm not sure what episode we're on now. It's been a lot. And we're excited about Syntact OS 1.3. I'm pretty sure Elektron's got some more surprises for us before the year ends, because I just think that product cycle for other devices is coming up. So I'm hoping, I'm kind of expecting, but I'm really just hoping that we see some more stuff from Elektron. As you know, this is a pretty heavily Elektron-focused channel, so hopefully something new comes up. I would love that. I'm excited for more stuff from them. And yeah, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all next time. Take it easy.